My name's Brendan Blacklock. I'm a descendant of the Yarrabul and Biripi tribes, and I'm a filmmaker. So I grew up in Penrith and Western Sydney, outskirts of Mount Druitt, St Mary's, Penrith, but mainly Penrith area. Yeah. Mum and Dad always worked, set a great example. Hard workers, didn't have a lot, but it was one of those families where we were taught if you work for something, then things come through for you in the end. So Dad was always working, Mum was always working. We were generally went to before and after school care, whether that was aunties or uncles or just the people down the road. So growing up, discrimination wasn't something that I really came across personally. I think more so my dad was the one, because he's a lot darker. My dad was, I knew about discrimination because I'd hear the stories from Dad and his parents and his cousins and things like that. But me personally, at school and things like that, there was always the odd racist jokes and things like that. But the way we were brought up is, everyone has a laugh and pays out on each other, and so it was like a fairly thick skin. So like, it's not as if it really had any effect on me. I don't believe that there was any stereotyping that had me in a negative way. As I approached the final years of high school, I wasn't thinking about work at all, to be honest. I had no idea what I wanted to do, had no idea where I was going to go, and I guess I didn't really plan for that at all. All I knew was that I was going to finish my HSC, and I did that. And my results weren't the greatest. I could have studied a bit more and done a bit more, but I think I got 52 or something like that. So it wasn't too bad and it wasn't too good. But as for work, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had no idea. I did work experience as a roof tiler, and that taught me that I didn't want to do hard labour. And I guess that was something I can thank Dad for, is because he set me up with that as a roof tiler for work experience in year 10, and it was one of his friends, and they really pushed me to the limits and showed me that it was just one of those great lessons. I'm sure they had a laugh about it, and I just knew that I didn't want to do hard labour, but I didn't have any plans. When I left school, I was lucky enough to get a kind of like an apprenticeship, but with Telstra as a telecommunications technician. So 2 weeks after I finished the HSC, I started work with Telstra as in the telephone exchanges as a telco tech. So I worked with Telstra for close to 7 years, and then I was made redundant just after the Olympics, so around 2002, and then again I was lost. What am I going to do now? And I decided I'll go to university, and I moved to Armidale and started environmental science at UNE, and picked up a cadetship with National Parks and Wildlife as a ranger. The cadetship with National Parks and Wildlife involved me going to university throughout the year, and then for the 3 months summer holidays, I'd go over to Coffs Harbour and Grafton and work there for 3 months out of the year. What drew me to national parks was a camping trip when I was a kid with Dad and a couple of his friends. We were down at Wombeyan Caves down in the Southern Highlands, and we were all sitting around having a great time. We'd been fishing, swimming in the river and exploring the bush, which I really love to do, always have. And at night, the ranger came and sat down and joined us and had a chat for a half hour to an hour. And as I remember clearly, when he left, Dad saying, "That's just got to be the greatest job in the world, hasn't it?" And it stuck. And I was like, always growing up, I wanted to be in the back of my mind, I wanted to be a ranger, but year 12, I didn't think that I could achieve that. So, when I was at high school, it's not like I said, I'm going to go to university and become a ranger, because all those years ago I met a ranger and it seemed like a good job. it wasn't until I was made redundant from Telstra, I thought I'll go to university, and then I applied for this cadetship, and that's where it took me. All along it seems like things have just happened, whether by chance but they just felt right. Everything felt right at the time. Telstra, bang, was a great job. I thought I'd work there forever. The university and national parks was just, I guess, a good decision. I just needed a change, and I knew it had to be a positive one. So education was the answer, I guess. In retrospect, I don't think there was anything holding me back. I just don't think I was educated. I was a little bit ignorant as to the processes. And I guess if I had have spoken to careers advisors, or if careers advisors were more, I guess, effective or used more in those days, then maybe I would have. But I also didn't think I was intelligent enough to go to university. It was one of those things the fear of not being good enough. I guess that's what held me back from going to university after school. In 2006, I had a fall and broke my back, 2 bones in my back, my sternum, and collapsed my lung through my head. That was with 6 months to go in my degree, and it put me on my back for a good year, and to this day I'm still in pain. But it was a traumatic experience, and it took me a long time to recover. So it was a year or so spending a lot of time in bed, and then 4 years before I could really do much at all, really, like a full-time job. I couldn't sit for any period of time, 15, 20 minutes as a maximum. So I knew that going back to being a ranger, which is mainly a desk job, was not an option anymore. So I was lost then. I did a bit of youth work, and youth work was good, but I knew it wasn't something that was going to be a lifelong thing. I didn't want to be working as a youth worker, working with kids 48 hours a week or 50 hours a week for the rest of my life. It's just too draining. And that's, I guess, when I moved back to Armidale to reground and get control of my life again, and I come across the film school. Coming into the film school, joining the film school, I was a complete novice. Didn't know anything about a camera, lighting. I knew a bit about sound because I used to play guitar, and a little bit about that, and producing beats on the computer and hip hop production on a computer. I knew a little bit about that. But coming in, I really was not confident. It was one of those things that I knew I wanted to be there. It was new and it was exciting, and the fact that it was hands-on that's really important to me. It's the only way I can learn. University was a struggle because it's all reading and writing reports. I guess it was the encouragement from one of my teachers. He pulled me aside one day and said how well I'm doing, and that I'm actually a really good student. And it wasn't until that day, to be honest, that I actually thought, well, I can actually make a go of this. And after that day, it was like I was always giving my best, but it was just kicked me up a notch, and I really started to pay a lot more attention and became more involved in every project. I was always asking people, are you shooting next week? How can I be involved? How can I help? And I started off just being the errand boy on everyone else's shoots, and because I didn't have the confidence for to operate a camera. I didn't know my way around a camera, didn't have the confidence to do that or to actually get out and go and shoot. I didn't realise that no one really has the confidence when they first start. It's all about just grabbing a camera and shooting. So in the early days, basically, I was an errand boy. I'd run around, do the sound, and just help people out, move lights, carry equipment, things like that, because I didn't have the confidence. In the holidays in between Certificate 4 and starting diploma in screen media, I was asked by a local filmmaker, Laszlo Szabo, to come down and help him shoot a documentary at the Tamworth Country Music Festival. And I was rapt. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And went down there and stayed for a few days, and just watched all this amazing music. And I was just, again, I thought, oh, I'll just go around and carry a camera, carry his gear around for him and things like that. And Laszlo had other ideas. He's just one of those guys, He's pulls out, he's got multiple cameras, and he goes, there's your camera, go shoot. And I was like, what do you want me to shoot? Where am I pointing? What do you want? What are you looking for? And he gave me like a 2-sentence answer, which didn't really make much sense, didn't really give me much guidance. I guess he taught me the lesson of just going out and shooting. And the fact that he had confidence in me brought about a confidence in myself. And after that, I come back the next year and I was, I'm going to start using the camera now, rather than just being someone standing off to the side and helping other people achieve their dreams. I was like, now this is my turn. So Armidale's a quite isolated town. It's a long way from industry, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I was lucky enough to get introduced to a focus puller, Paul Shakeshaft, by a local guy in Armidale, his brother, Bernie Shakeshaft, after doing a promotional DVD for his local youth working organisation. The timing was perfect. Bernie called his brother and Paul said, well, I'll give you a go. I'm starting on a feature film in 2 weeks' time. That was one of the things, the catering was one of the things that really, really made me think, I'm in the right place here. The biggest smorgasbord for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and just never-ending amounts of food. You need it. You're working long hours. You need the right energy, because when it's on, 100% concentration, and when you change locations or have to change setups, it's go. You've got hundreds of people getting paid X amount of dollars, and any time that's wasted is blowing budgets. So the stress is there, and I guess I kind of feed off that type of stress. That's where I operate the best, is just knowing what you need to do. Well, in those days I didn't know what I needed to do. I just was going around blindly. It's been my experience that film crew are generous with their knowledge. I've worked with some great guys. The camera team have always been just there for each other. We're a small team, and everyone's there to help each other out and to get a job done. I've heard stories about cinematographers or camera operators who don't want to share their knowledge to the young guys in case, fear of being replaced, or fighting for, having another person to fight for jobs and things like that. But I guess because I was so green, I still am very, very green in the industry. They're happy to teach me. They're telling me, why we're doing this shot, why the lighting's like this, why we're using this particular lens. They were really forthcoming with information, and which was important to me, because that's how I learn. I need to have that one-on-one, and the guys just took me under their wing. Matthew Temple bought me a couple of books on cinematography and things like that at the end of Redfern now that I hold dearly and just look over all the time. Throughout my career, I've made some choices where I want to go, where I thought I wanted to go, and I've ended up in a totally different career that I never thought of being involved in. And I've worked some silly jobs that I hated, but they all sort of sent me in a particular direction. So I guess my advice to people that don't know what they want to do in life, just to go out and try new things. Because once you open yourself up, open your mind, and you start surrounding yourself with good people in good environments, then good things start happening, and before you know it, it may take you 5 or 10 years or 50 jobs, but if you keep trying and keep surrounding yourself with good people, then good things will happen and you'll find your path. And I think that's what happened with me, because throughout my life, particularly sort of towards the end of high school and in my teens, I did hang around some not so good people, and the negativity sort of soaks in, and And it's quite easy to get caught up, especially when you're hanging out with guys that you grew up with or people in your hometown, and you think, oh, this is where I grew up, this is where I live, this is me. It's not. That is not the answer. You need to move. If you've been living in the one spot and you find yourself not knowing what to do, pick a town, pick a capital city, move, meet new people, go out. You don't have to go out to a club and drink and meet people. I'm talking about go out and join a social activity, whether it's touch football or something like that. Meet new people that way. Positive things. Keep the positive people in your life, and the positive path follows. And I think that's how I got to where I am. There was a time where I just decided that I don't need to be hanging around negative people, and so I started pushing them aside. And well, you don't have to tell them, oh, I'm not talking to you anymore. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you because I feel you're negative. You just distance yourself, and you find new people. And the people that are doing good in their life, that positivity leaches into your life, and you surround yourself with the good people, and before you know it, you're in a happy place. And I'm in a very happy place right now.